Welcome to the Hockey Writers Prospect Corner, a show with our top prospects writing crew, bringing you the latest news, analysis, scouting reports, mocks, rankings, and much more. From the World Juniors to the NHL Draft floor, from the farm to the NHL, our team covers everything that happens in the world of prospects. So sit back, grab a notebook, and get ready for Prospect Corner.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back into the Prospect Corner presented by the Hockey Writers. I am your host, Matthew Zator, again, joined by my co-hosts, Peter Baracchini and Devin Little. I'm also very excited to welcome in Alexa Potack from Dobber Prospects. Very excited to have her on the show. How are you doing, Alexa?
I'm doing well. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so we'll be talking prospects again this week. And before we get started, this week's show is being brought to you by the new Hockey Writers Sports Betting Guide. A brand new source for your daily sports betting odds, lines, props, and futures, as well as some daily fantasy strategies and analysis. Make sure to follow THW Bets on Twitter to get the latest on everything sports betting. So now it's out of the way. This week, we're going to be focusing on Swedish prospects. That's Alexa's specialty over at Dobber. So that's going to be our focus. We had some comments last week about us going over to Europe and talking. So it looks like someone looked into the future because that's what we're doing this week. So, so we're going to be talking about Swedish prospects eligible for this 2022 NHL Draft. We'll also be talking some Vancouver Canucks prospects and Detroit Red Wings as well, because they're both usually really strong with Swedes in their system. So we'll be talking about that as well. So to start off, we're going to talk about the first round of the upcoming draft. It's not as strong as past years with, we had Holtz last year, a few years ago, we had Lucas Raymond. I mean, some of the big high power guys, are not as many this year, but I mean, there's still some skilled Swedes in this draft. So we're going to start with arguably the top one, and Jonathan Lekkerimäki. Alexa, we'll start with you on him. What do you like about his game, and what do you think his NHL ceiling will be when he eventually gets here?
With Lekkerimäki, the first thing that should come to mind is his shot. He has an incredible shot. Like, you could just watch highlight reel goals all day. He's a really strong passer as well. And one thing that's really stood out to me is the season that he's had in the SHL. It hasn't been quite up there with some of the, great Swedish players to come to the NHL, but it's been certainly above some players. Like, it's been above Lucas Raymond's draft year in terms of points, and been around a lot of other players that have been very successful recently out of the draft. So I think his ceiling, I think we're still trying to figure that out. He's looked pretty good in the SHL, as I've said, but there are some aspects of his game where he does look a little bit overmatched. He's a good skater, not a great skater. So I think that that's something where he needs to work on that in order to make himself more ready for the NHL. And I also think a lot of these Swedish players, when they're getting drafted, a lot of them are smaller guys. They're 5'11", 6 foot at most, especially for forwards generally. And they're pretty skinny on the weight end too. So I think that's something too, is he needs to put on a little more strength, a little more muscle. And I think that will help to ensure it. But I think you definitely could see someone that will make an impact on the power play in the NHL out of him.
Yeah, Lekkerimäki, I've been high on him as well. I mean, all you said, that's basically, that's his strengths. And, he's got 7 goals in the SHL this year as a 17-year-old. So that's in a men's league. That's pretty impressive. Let's go to Peter. We'll go to you. Anything to add to that you've seen on Lekkerimäki? I know he's one of your favorites. You've got him pretty high in your latest rankings. What do you think?
Yeah, I have him 11th overall, and actually close neck and neck battle between him and the other Swede that we're going to be talking about very soon. But I just kind of wish that he stayed at the J20 level to see him just absolutely dominate with, that Djurgårdens team that is just absolutely stacked. But you know what? He deserves a call up. He's making the most of his opportunities. And the thing that stands out to me the most is just his patience. I mean, he doesn't force anything, especially with his offensive tendencies and his shot. He likes to curl back. He likes to take his time. And then when he does spot his route or his route or, the lane that he wants to go with, he'll capitalize on that, and he'll make the defenders pay for that. So to me, that's just the biggest asset of his, how he thinks the game and how he processes everything, the patience, and he just doesn't rush it. And I think for a 17-year-old to display that kind of patience is very, very telling, and why he's one of the top-ranked European skaters and the top-ranked Swede.
Yeah, and just going off of with the call-up, just looking into it, I think that given his patience and given his obvious success in the SHL so far, I mean, Djurgården is having a really tough year at the men's level. So I think they're looking for anyone that can help them. So I think that, obviously it would be really fun to watch him tear up the J20. I mean, I would love to see that, but I think that as an organizational decision, I think it's pretty clear that he needs to be in the SHL right now.
Definitely.
Devin, anything to add to that? I'm sure you've been watching him with Detroit. Probably going to be picking around that area. What do you think about Lekkerimäki?
Well, he's a Swede, so he gets that going for him at least. But beyond that, honestly, it seems like every year there's always a player that is kind of in this mold where they're very much a shooter, and that's like what they're known for. That's their skill. That's what they're going to be drafted for. I think of Cole Caulfield a few years ago. I think of Alexander Holtz a few years ago.
Yeah.
And I think that he's going to be a player that, I wouldn't expect him to jump to the NHL right away. I expect him to still need some time to marinate. But when he does arrive, I think he's going to be a perennial goal scorer in the NHL, whether it's as a second line forward or a first line forward. He's definitely got the skill to produce on a consistent basis. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, Lekkerimäki is he's one of my favorites, like I said. There's a guy that's not very far behind him. Peter, you actually have him next in your rankings. Liam Öhgren. He's been all over the place in the rankings. Craig Button has him at 10. He can go all the way down to 32 or 39 by McKeen's. He's ranked 39th overall. So he could go into the second round, apparently, according to some of these rankings. But Peter, we'll go to you first. Why is he so far? Why is he all over the place? And what do you think about his game going into this draft?
That's a really tough question. I think maybe the production that he's having at the J20 level, I think that may be very telling. 18 years old, and maybe they're looking too much into points, but maybe they just want to see a little bit more. Maybe that's why they have him ranked as low as he is. But I mean, based on what I've seen and just like his play, his highlights, and the way that he plays, it's just the way that he pushes it and the pace that it's at. It's just very, very quick. It reminds me a lot of William Eklund last year and how he plays and how he's able to engage in the play, taking control of every shift with his passing, and his shot is very underrated. I think it may be up there with Lekkerimäki's because he's got 33 at the J20 level. But then again, difference compared to the junior level and the senior level. But I would expect him to rise up on other rankings. I think right now we're seeing, the dominance that he's having. And if he's able to play with that compete and that consistency, I think there are going to be teams that are going to be looking to draft him in that, 12, 15, 20 range in that top 20. I don't think he should be any lower than that just on his play alone.
I think he should definitely be in that range. I mean, I don't see him as a second round pick, but I mean, I'm not a scout and in NHL, right? So Alexa, I'll go over to you with the, what do you think about Liam Öhgren, and why do you think he's been all over the place? What do you like about his game?
I mean, if a team gets him in the second round, they're one of the luckiest teams you could find, because in my mind, there's no way he falls past, 21, 22 at latest. I really think he's in that 10 to 20 range. I think he is behind Lekkerimäki. I know there's a lot of back and forth. I think one thing that has separated them is that Lekkerimäki has been very successful in the SHL, whereas Öhgren has struggled a bit more. Yeah. Although you can look at Öhgren's J20 numbers and they're absurd at this point. I do think I agree with you that he's a really strong shot. He has such a fast release. You just see, and he can score from all over the ice. He's able to, get up close on a breakaway, but he's also able to shoot the puck from further out. Like, he really is able to put the puck in the back of the net from wherever. And I think that that's something that obviously needs to be valued by an NHL club, and it will be. I think that in terms of his floor and his ceiling, I think Lekkerimäki has a higher ceiling. but I think that his floor might be higher right now just because he plays such a well-rounded game, whereas you can find a couple more areas for improvement with Lekkerimäki. But Öhgren he plays a very mature style of play. He looks more experienced and he looks older than he is. But that's also in part because he is a little bit bigger. He's stronger than Lekkerimäki and he's able to use his body more efficiently. So I think that all of that taken into account, I would say he's a little bit behind Lekkerimäki, but he definitely deserves to be in that 10 to 20 range.
It looks like we're in agreement on that. Devin, are you going to break that, or you think he should be in that area as well?
I'm not going to break from the consensus here. I think that it would be really good for him to go to a team that can afford to be patient with him, because he's a player that I think has a really solid base right now. He's just going to need some time to develop and really kind of grow into himself and take his game to the next level. And if he's with a team that, maybe wants to rush him, I don't know, that's going to be the best fit for him. So I think to see him go later in the first round, he's going to go to a team that's, a playoff team more than likely. I think that's going to be good for him. And I think that, as has already been said, he's got all sorts of kit, all sorts of tools in his kit. I think that the book isn't necessarily out on what type of player he is either. Like, I think that he could be one thing or another. I don't think, the book is out on him yet. So excited to see where he goes, because like I said, I think that a really good fit could be out there depending on where he falls.
So let's do a quick roundtable here. Who would you choose? I mean, out of the two, Peter, you've got them back to back in your rankings. Who would you choose if you were a GM up on the podium there and say, they're both available? Who would you choose out of the two?
I would say come back to me, but I guess I'm on the spot right now. I think you just have to go with the potential of Lekkerimäki. I think maybe he has a lot more to give. Just like what we previously talked about before, there's a lot of room for improvement. We already know, what Öhgren is capable of, and if he is able to fall to that spot of a playoff team, then he's definitely going to thrive and give him that opportunity to succeed and develop properly. But I think Lekkerimäki, with his shot and his skill set, I think maybe he just has the slight edge. But then again, it really is difficult because they're so neck and neck right now. I think it could go either way between Lekkerimäki or Öhgren.
Alexa, who would you choose if you're up on the podium and you're the GM and they're both available? Who are you going with?
In short, I would say Lekkerimäki. I think all of that comes with a grain of salt. What type of team you are, what type of team you're trying to build, what sort of phase your team's in. But I think I agree that, if you're just looking at potential and, what could be there for that player, I think Lekkerimäki has more to offer on that end.
Devin, you agree with it, or you're going to break it?
Well, I liked Alexa's comment about Lekkerimäki having a higher ceiling, but Öhgren maybe having a higher floor. I think, contextually, it could depend on what's more important to you. But for, we're just on the spot here, who you're going to pick, I'm going to go with the higher ceiling. So Lekkerimäki.
Yeah, I'm going to make it a 4, Pete, here. I'm going to say it's Lekkerimäki as well. He does have a higher ceiling, and at that point you go with the higher ceiling. Doesn't matter. What a team will get Öhgren and they'll be really happy with him too. Yeah. So, but and like you said, Alexa, it depends on the team. It depends on where teams are in their development cycle and who they want. But it was just a fun question.
On a side note, FC Hockey, they do their whole, mock draft builder and everything like that. Öhgren is very low, so every single time I'm the Toronto Maple Leafs, I'm taking Öhgren. So if he's going to be in that spot and he falls, the Maple Leafs should really definitely take a look at Öhgren. Bias aside.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what any team is grabbing where he is. Right? But like Alexa said, if he drops the second round, my gosh, it's team's going to get a steal.
Yeah.
So speaking of guys in the lower rounds, there are guys there past the first round. A lot of rankings have just those two in the first round. So, Alexa, who do you think could potentially move into the first round? There's always those surprises that get drafted higher than they should, or maybe they should have been drafted at high, like Moritz Seider, where he was drafted and he was supposed to go in the second round, right? So Do you have someone that you have your eye on that's like that?
I mean, I think I honestly could see a couple more Swedes in the from 20 onwards to the end of the first round. I think there's people I've seen in rankings and there's people who I think should just fall in there on my own. One person that I think would be interesting to talk about is Noah Östlund. He's the other one on their line. I think he initially was thought of as he was going to be the most successful one. I think he was the one that was identified first. And so people just assumed, it's one of those players, they were really good when they're 14 and 15. And people are like, they're going to go really early in the draft. And sometimes it falls off a little, sometimes it falls off a lot, but he is still a very good hockey player. But Lekkerimäki and Öhgren have definitely exceeded his level of talent. He's still able to drive play well. He's a pass first player. If you look at his stat line in the J20, I think he has as many assists as Öhgren has goals. And obviously he wasn't every assist, but that tells the story pretty well. So I think he's someone that I would expect to see in the first round. I think there's a couple others, but if you guys want to share some as well.
Now, over to you, Devin. Who do you have as someone that could push themselves into that first round?
Well, I think that if they do push their way into the first round, it's probably one of the last 2 or 3 picks. But I've got Simon Forsmark. And the reason why I've got him is he's a defenseman. And if, the right team comes along that needs to add to their defensive depth, he's a good guy to look at. I don't think he is as, explosive or as well-rounded as some of the other defensemen that are in this class. But I do think he's got a good foundation to build on. I think I like his positioning on the ice. He's pretty, especially for, his age. And I think that he makes a pretty good first pass too. I think, like I said, he's got a good toolkit to build on. And I think that, kind of like what I said with Öhgren, if he goes to a team that can afford to be patient with him, he's somebody that could really develop into a nice, I would go as far to say middle pairing defenseman.
I mean, one thing about Swedish defensemen, they seem to be able to come to the NHL at some point. There's just so many. So, I mean, you drafted a Swedish defenseman, they're probably going to have a good chance of it. I mean, not all of them do, but, they seem to be able to produce those types of guys. Peter, who do you have to finish off this conversation? Who do you have as someone that you think could push themselves into that first round?
Although some rankings have him outside, quite a few do. I mean, I have Calle Adelius in there, but I'm not going to pick Calle Adelius because I think he is a first rounder. I'm going to go with someone else. I'm going to go with Philip Bystead from Linköping. And I think that he has the potential to be a really steady top 6, at most second line forward, but he's going to be a very dominant with his size, playmaking abilities. And I took notice of him during the Helenka Gretzky Cup, where he had 7 points in 5 games, and just his speed and ability to, break free from the opposition really stands out for a guy that's 6'4", 187 pounds. So already has the size effect to his game. Teams are going to value that. He's got the potential upside offensively. Granted, 49 points at the J20 level, it may not translate as well to the NHL, but if he's able to be that two-way dominant forward that could get you 40, 50 points, I think that's going to be really great. Again, that's just a potential, but either way, I'm very high on him that a team can look at and develop him properly.
All great picks. All those guys are definitely going to probably push or even, challenge for that first round. So it's going to be interesting to see what teams do in that first round. I mean, there's so much talent. There's a lot of U.S. talent, it seems like, in this first round. And so it'll be interesting to see what type of Europeans get pushed themselves into that conversation. So again, it's going to be a fun couple days to see where these guys fall. Let's talk about the later rounds now. Past the first round, and these guys are probably not going to get into that conversation. Let's talk about the second and third and beyond. We'll start with Peter this time. Give us one or two that fans should be watching in this upcoming draft that right now are ranked to be in that later second, third round plus that you have your eye on there.
I have him currently as a sort of mid to late third, and that's Fabian Wagner. Again, a teammate of Philip Bystad. He's already got the size, 17 years old, and he's pretty good production with 38 points in 43 games. I think he's got really great puck protection skills. He's starting to develop that puck possession game that teams really rely on. And I mean, if there's the possibility that he can move up just based on his, production alone. And if he has that consistency, I think he's really one to keep an eye on, and that maybe could sneak into the second or even to that top end of the third round that teams would really love to have a, mid-tier scoring winger.
Alexa, who do you have as someone that you want people to kind of bookmark in this coming draft that's supposed to go in that second, third round plus?
Yeah, I mean, I think someone that's already getting talked about, I've even seen people argue that there's a chance he could slide into the first. So I think I would say this is a second round guy, is Matthias Havelid.
Yeah.
I think that, he just has so much skill. You just watch him play and you can just tell that there are really good things coming for him. Like we've talked about, Swedish defensemen just happen to find their way into the NHL a lot. So I think I think that is what's coming for him. I think he's going to need some more time in Sweden to really get his game together and refine it. But I think that he is certainly a second round pick in my mind, and someone that people should have their eyes on if he can really pull it together at the end of the season. Could even be, someone that if team swings at in the first round in a late pick.
I like Havelid as well. He was a guy that I'm kind of pinpointing for the Canucks to kind of maybe get. If they can somehow get a second round pick in this draft, which they don't have at the moment. Mm-hmm. Devin, let's finish this question off with you. Who do you have pinpointed in that second, third round that people should be looking at?
Well, I've been paying a lot of attention to Frölunda for reasons. And this particular player is tearing up Frölunda's J20 level with 60 points in 40 games. That is Ludvig Persson. He is a player that, to some extent, he honestly reminds me of another Red Wings prospect, shocker, that is Swedish. And his name is Theodor Niederbach. And I think that he's not a super big dude. He's, 5'11", not overly muscular, but he's got really good skating, really good speed. He plays hard every time he's on the ice. He's got sneaky good skill. He's pointless in 10 games at the men's level with Frölunda. So it's probably got another couple steps to take. But another player that I think you can just, when you watch him play, you can see that it's there. He's just got to marinate a bit longer. And I think the tougher the competition he faces, the more it's going to bring out the best in him. So I'm excited to see where he goes and to watch his development.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where these guys, where they're going to go, because, second, third round, there's some good players that come out of those rounds. Usually the NHL kind of goes around these guys. So now let's talk about way deep. Let's go deeper into this draft and talk about guys that could potentially be sleepers. Is there a Patrick Hornquist in this draft somewhere? I mean, he was drafted 7th round on the last pick of that draft. Alexa, you have someone like that in this draft that could potentially just come out of nowhere and be an NHL player, even though they're drafted in that way late rounds?
This is someone that I think is really under the radar. When I started watching him, I just would happen to go see if I could find other people talking about him online on Twitter, and really no one's talking about him, which is shocking given his production alone. And that's someone else from Frölunda. It's Joel Rakovic Berntsen. He is 4th among draft eligible players in J20 scoring this year. He clearly has offensive talent. His game is pretty raw, so he has to work on, refining his skills and really pulling it together. But I think that he is someone that probably goes in the 4th or 5th round and will be a good player to pick. And I think, it's hard to just say you should draft a player for the team he plays for, but Frölunda is a factory at this point with pumping out players that are successful in the NHL. So given that he is in that system too, I think he's someone you can take a chance on in a mid or late round.
Well, that's a big thing, is where they're playing. I mean, these leagues are development leagues too. I mean, they're playing in a system that produces NHL players. I mean, it's probably not a bad thing to go and look at them, right? Yeah. Djurgården's another one that's kind of emerging as that type of factor, but Frölunda's always been there.
Yeah.
As being a team that just produces NHLers. And that's not a fluke. I mean, there's something there that maybe they're feeding something maybe there's something in the water or something. I don't know. Peter, who do you have as your under the radar prospect that could potentially surprise people, even though they're drafted later?
Yeah, it's kind of falls in line with what I look for in like a two-way stay-at-home kind of defenseman kind of player, similar to Ethan Del Mastro or Jack Mateer last year that I was really high on. And I'm going to pick Philip Nordberg. I obviously the production may not there, but he does have the smarts. He has the ability to take away the lanes. He's got the size, the strength to just be, an absolute force and menace to make lives miserable for the opposition when he's in his own end. He's very physical. Great defensive awareness and the smarts. And I think if teams are looking for that bottom pairing kind of player or someone that can move up into the lineup, I think he has the potential. And I think he's also got some really good mobility. Obviously, not as much as, let's say a Forsmark or a Delius, but he does have good movements. I think he does have some good smarts, and I think he could be a really good pickup as a 4th or 5th rounder.
Yeah, good choice for sure. Devin, finish it off with you. Who do you have pegged to be that type of player, a later round pick, but becomes something in the NHL?
Well,
I
picked this guy because I really liked his name, and I don't even know if he's going to go super late, but especially here with our friend who covers the Canucks, that's Elias Pettersson.
Oh my God.
Yes. Defenseman, not a center. He has got 1 point in 17 games at the men's level in the SHL. And he's producing at every other level he's been at. He's got again, I feel like this is kind of my phrase for today's show. He's got a toolkit. He's got a toolkit to build on. I think he's very raw. He's got some marinating to do. And I think I don't know that I fully project him as an NHL player at this point, because I just think he's got some stuff to work on, but he's got some skills and he's producing, and I think that's kind of the key thing. And if anything, like I said, keep an eye on him because he's got a really good name.
Toolkit. The Canucks better not do that to broadcasters. If he becomes in the NHL, you got 2 Elias Pettersson on the team. Oh, gosh.
That's what they were saying for the Rangers. I'm a Rangers fan, so a couple years back, we signed a guy out of Sweden, Michael Lundqvist. Henrik Lundqvist was on the team. We had Niels Lundqvist in the system. They were like, you can't have 3 of them out there.
There's already talk about the Canucks can't acquire Marcus Pettersson because they'll have 2 Petterssons on the team.
Also, let's hope the Islanders don't pick up the Sebastian Aho from the
Oh gosh,
because then you would have 2 on one team with the Carolina Hurricanes. You'd have 2 Sebastian Ahos, and that's just not going to be fun at all.
I think it'd be very fun, actually.
It'd be very fun for us to watch.
It'd be fun if you're not the broadcaster.
Exactly.
So yeah, we've hit the middle part of the show now. We're going to take a breath, reset the show here. This is the Prospect Corner. I'm Matthew Zator, and I'm here with Peter, Devin, and Alexa, and we're talking Swedish prospects. Before we get back to it, I wanted to let you know about the Hockey Writers Sports Betting Guide, brand new source for the daily sports betting odds, lines, props, and futures, as well as some daily fantasy strategies and analysis. Make sure to follow THW Bets on Twitter to get the latest on everything sports betting. Let's move on to, apart from some draft talk, let's talk about some Canucks and Red Wings prospects now. Seeing that I cover the Canucks and Devin covers the Red Wings, and so let's talk about a few guys. First, let's talk in general about the Canucks. Plenty of success with prospects, Swedish prospects in the past. Like I said, the top of the show, they've got a few in their system. They're not high-end NHL type prospects, but they have some things going for them. They could potentially become NHLers at some point. I wanted to get your thoughts on this, Alexa, since you're on, coming on the show here. Out of these guys that are in the system right now, Linus Karlsson, Arvid Kosmar, Jonathan Myrenberg, Victor Persson and Hugo Gabrielson. All of them are playing in overseas except for Victor Persson. Out of those players, who do you think has any chance of making the NHL at some point? Or are they just going to all become guys that are AHL and, journeyman, that type of thing?
I mean, I would say the answer has got to be Linus Karlsson. He's had a really strong year this year. He played in Hockey Allsvenskan last season and, proved that he was ready for the next level. And it's been seamless for him. It really there hasn't been an adjustment period to playing in the SHL. And I think that obviously Skellefteå has a very strong team this year, so that also helps. But he's been playing major minutes for them, and he's been very successful this season. He has a really good hockey IQ. You always will find him with the puck on his stick, and he's just found a really good rhythm of production at this point. He had 2 goals today and tried the Michigan on his first shift.
Nice.
So,
yeah.
So he's pretty confident right now.
He definitely is. And the thing is, now that Patrick Galvin is in the GM's chair, and it seems like there's more of a chance he's going to come over to the end to play at least in the AHL, which is great. And Canucks can get something from that Jonathan Dahlin trade that is looking not too good for them right now. But I mean, Karlsson's just ripping it up. He's now broken Elias Pettersson's rookie scoring now. Yeah. So that's a pretty big feat. I mean, he is older than Pettersson when Pettersson did it, but that's still pretty massive to do in the SHL. So it's going to be exciting to see what he can do at the next level, at least the AHL and hopefully the NHL at some point. So I do agree. Karlsson is probably the guy out of that group. Peter, do you agree that Karlsson's in there, or do you have someone else that kind of looking of what you've seen of these guys?
Yeah, but I think that maybe Hugo Gabrielson was a very polarizing player that was in the draft last year, because he had the offensive upside, but again, the defensive awareness was something that needed to be worked on. I think that, if he continues to round out his game, they do have a player with a lot of potential, especially on defense, where, that could be an area of improvement. They could really use some help on the back end. Obviously, it's going to take some time for him to get there. He still needs to develop, but I think there's a lot of promise in his game. Again, we talk about the mobility of like players like Quinn Hughes. Gabrielson can man a quarterback a power play and, be a difference maker. And he's got a really good shot and he's got good playmaking ability. So he has that going for him. But again, the defensive side, a work in progress, but there's still some hope there.
Gabrielson, I liked when they drafted him. He was on my kind of under the radar picks in the draft that year. So I can't remember if I did his profile or not, but yeah, he's an interesting guy to watch as well. Devin, what do you think? Do you think any of these guys have NHL potential, and how high do you think?
Well, I do agree that Karlsson's probably the one to watch. But to his credit, I wouldn't write off Victor Persson. I got him as a 7th round pick in the 2020 draft. So very much just a dart throw. Yeah. And he's doing really well with the Blazers in the WHL this year. He's got 26 points in 55 games. His first season over here in North America, and he's not looking out of place. So he's a player that I want to see have another good season in the WHL and kind of show that he is as advertised, or he's showing that he is what he is right now. But yeah, I wouldn't write him off. Again, like I said, I think Karlsson's kind of the one that if you have to pick one to make the NHL, he's the one. But I do think there's more than just one out of this group that does have a shot.
For sure. And I'm just going to come in here with a plug for a guy that I have really liked since last year, who the Canucks took in the 7th round last year, was Lucas Forshall. He had
I forgot about him.
Yeah. I'm
my God. Horrible.
But no, I mean, he had a really limited showing size in his draft year, which is why I think he fell as far as he did, because he produced very well in the few games that he did play. But I think the Canucks got a steal with him. I think he very well could have been a 5th round pick. And he has just really shown that he is wanting to take the next step and that he is actively taking the next step in like proving his worth as someone that maybe should have been picked higher. He hustles a lot, and that's something that I really like about his game. He had, some good weeks in the SHL back in February and just, and still continues to be successful in the league. His ice time has been a bit all over the place, which I'm sure is tough to, remain consistent when one night you're playing, upwards of 10 minutes and one night you're playing 5 minutes. But he is someone that I think Canucks fans should also have an eye on. He had a hat trick yesterday in the J20. So he's just someone that I have had an eye on since last year and that I've kind of pinned as my guy, I guess.
Oh, I feel so bad. I was looking at his hat trick yesterday too, and before I put this together, why didn't I add him in? Oh my gosh. Okay, that you have permission to
we're talking about
me
him
in
now,
the comments, guys. And skewer me in the comments. He's a guy I really like as well, and I'm just so bad that I didn't add him in there. So Carlson and Forrest. They're both guys are going to be. Forsell's also a guy that you want to have to look at as well. Let's turn to the Red Wings now and talk about. You probably know what I'm talking about. Simon Edvinsson, probably their top prospect right now. Alexa, what do you think about Simon Edvinsson? Do you think he can be a dominant top pairing D-man in the NHL? There's obviously probably some stuff he still has to work on. What do you think about his game and his development so far?
I think he definitely has the potential to be a top pairing NHL defenseman. And I think, like you said, that he may have some stuff to work on. There were some, comments. People weren't so sure about his offensive capabilities, but he's done a good job of showing that he's improving it right now. And I believe he's got like 17 points in a few over 40 games in the SHL. So I think he's definitely shown that as a defenseman, he is able to contribute offensively. And then in terms of his defense and even neutral zone play, like he's shown that he's confident. He is a great skater. He's good at moving the puck. He really has a lot to offer. And I think that that's going to be a home run of a pick for Detroit.
We know, Devin, what you think about Edvinsson. We talked about him in the Red Wings prospect deep dive. Just wanted to get Alexa's insights on that. So I don't think we need to repeat ourselves a bit on Simon Edvinsson. He's a heck of a prospect. He's gonna be a heck of an NHL defenseman. Probably pairing with Moritz Seider, like we said in that show. So my gosh, that pairing is gonna be ridiculous when it comes to fruition. So gonna be really good. So let's finish off this discussion with Alexa. Anyone else you have your eye on in the Red Wings system that you're excited to see one day in the NHL? I'm pretty sure I already know one of them that Devin really loves. So what do you think?
If I had to guess, is that Soderblom? Or
he's one of them. He's one of them.
Soderblom's someone to talk about. He's 6'8" and can move the puck and weave through people like he's like 5'11". So for being, I think his elite prospects has him at like 6'8", 238, and to be able to move like you're like 50 pounds lighter and like 8 or 9 inches smaller is an impressive feat on its own. And if you look at his production too, between when he was drafted and his like year after the draft, like clearly Detroit saw something in him. It shocks me that he fell to the 5th round, even just based off his size alone. I think NHL GMs see a tall guy and they're like, oh, we want him. Regardless of anything else, I feel like that ends up happening a couple times during the draft. So the fact that he was a 5th round pick is shocking to me, but Detroit really found a player that was able to improve a lot, and he's got a lot coming for him, and he'll be a real threat in the NHL for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, he's a massive guy. Jonathan Berggren's the other one that Devin is really high on. So, but Soderblom, my gosh, he's going to be a guy to watch for sure. Mm-hmm. So that's. Anyone else have any other thoughts before we move on to our fun quick fire round, which is kind of all over the place, but just have some fun to finish off the show.
I'm good.
I think you can also throw Wallander into the ring there.
Wallander
had a good season. He's had a really good season.
Albert Johansson.
Yeah, he's another one. They pick Swedes and they pick Swedes well. So
Oh
there's
my
a lot
gosh,
of people to
yes.
talk about.
I just have to say this is my third show being with the show now, and twice you've talked about the Red Wings, so I'm enjoying myself. This is nice.
You got to switch it up next week.
Yeah,
we got to focus on something else. But that's the thing. Red Wings have so much Swedish talent in their system, so why not talk about them? I mean, they're going to be fun to watch, and they have such a strong scouting system in Sweden, and that's where they get most of their players, which and Yzerman's now running it, and he's doing the same thing. So why, don't fix what ain't broke. So let's move on to that fun quick fire round. Just some quick questions, fun way to end the show before we do our prospects of the week. Start with you, Alexa. First question: who is your favorite Swedish player of all time? Not prospects, anything, any Swedish player of in the history of hockey.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm a Rangers fan, so I kind of got to say Hank. I mean, he's the reason I follow Swedish hockey. I bought a Frölunda jersey of his when I was in 7th grade because I just thought it looked cool. People come up to me at the garden, ask me what it was. I had no idea. I was in 7th grade, but that really was like, I should figure out what this jersey represents and like what team it is and their history and that sort of thing. And that's what really started my love for following European hockey and Swedish hockey in specific. So beyond just the player he was on the ice as a Ranger, also just off the ice, and I guess who I am as a person, I can attribute to him in some ways.
Great pick. Lundqvist is just, he's just one of probably the best goaltender that the Rangers have had in their history. And too bad he didn't retire with them. He had to, they should have signed him to a 1-day contract.
I was expecting that, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. Peter, who's your favorite Swedish player of all time? I'm assuming it's going to be a Maple Leaf, but are you going to prove me wrong on that one?
Hang on, that's Sedin. Yeah, you guys know me so well. I mean, growing up in the 90s, and as soon as I heard that the Maple Leafs traded for Matt, trying to recollect as best as I can because I was still a young kid at that time. When they got Matt Sundin, and the first game that I ever saw him play was in a Maple Leafs uniform, I just instantly fell in love with him. I mean, one of the, greats to come over and play the game. He's had a lot of international success as well. And you know what? And I'm also going to throw this in there. Peter Forsberg is like a near close second as well. Yeah, so if it ain't Matt Sundin, it's Peter Forsberg, or if it's like one of those two, it's going to be Marcus Naslund as well. Yeah. But yeah, Matt Sundin for me all the way. My favorite player growing up, got his jersey, have a signed picture of him when he scored his 1,000th point, I believe. So yeah, so he holds a special place in my heart.
He retired as a Canuck, so one year there. That's done. I credit him to developing Ryan Kessler's game. So, so he was a big. Even though he was here only for a little bit, he made a big impact on the Canucks. Even though he was only here a short time. Devin, finish with you. Who do you have as your favorite Swedish player of all time? I'm sure it's a Red Wing, but
he's going to throw a curveball.
Let me show you. Let me show you possibly the weirdest hockey thing that I own. That, well, you can't really see it because of the light, but
glare,
it's a signed napkin by Henrik Zetterberg. Henrik Zetterberg is my favorite Swedish hockey player. He's actually my favorite hockey player, period. And if I had to pick a second, maybe it's just the name, the first name I should say, but it would be Henrik Lundqvist. So big fan of Henriks in the NHL.
That signed napkin reminds me of the signed napkin that Sheldon Cooper got from Leonard Nimoy in Big Bang Theory. I just instantly put the two together because I'm just like, wow, he actually got that. That is amazing.
That's awesome. You could probably guess who my favorite. It's hard for me to pick, but I'm going with the Sedin twins, and I can't pick between the two, but I'm going to go with the Sedins as one player because they were just so exciting to watch, and for the time that they were here, underappreciated by some, but probably the best Swedes that the Canucks have had. Naslund was a close second, but the Sedins are, for me, my favorite Swedes. I mean, there's so many in the NHL, but the Sedins are mine. Now that's a great segue, because that's the next question is, if the Sedins weren't drafted together and played on the same team, who would have had the more successful career? Alexa, I'll go to you. Who do you think would have had would one of them be 100-point guy at one point, or?
I mean, you would know better than me, because I didn't see too much of the Sedins growing up, especially on the East Coast in the US. But I would argue probably Henrik, purely based off his playing style, being the setup man, being the playmaker out of the two. I would say that, a setup man sort of player makes everyone around them better and would lead to more individual and team success.
Peter, what do you think? Who would be the more successful NHL if they did not play together?
I'd just like to fact check, correct myself. I don't think Leonard Nimoy signed the napkin. It was just he just wiped his napkin on. Random note. Sorry about that.
Napkin something.
Yeah, I've seen that show too many times. You think I know better. I was thinking long and hard about this one. I mean, it makes sense with Henrik because of the playmaking, the points, the assists, and everything like that. But you also have Daniel as sort of the main finisher and was the goal scorer out of the two. So my answer is neither. They needed to be together. They needed to play as one. They needed to be on the same line. And you know what? To see them not play together, it just would have felt really, really weird to see. They needed to be together. It was meant to be.
Agree. Yeah. Devin, what do you think? Who would be the more successful, or not at all?
Yeah, I think there might be something to what Peter just said there, because there was that all-star game however many years ago where they were on separate teams, and I feel like they didn't shine as brightly as they usually do. But I just said that I liked Henrik Zetterberg and Henrik Lundqvist, so I got to stick with it and say that Henrik Sedin would probably be, yes, exactly, would probably be the more successful one just because of his playmaking, like Alexa said.
Yeah. I'm of the thinking that that's probably the case. If Henrik was just a ridiculously good passer and probably one of the best playmakers in the NHL. He succeeded when Daniel was out for quite a while that season. He won the Hart Trophy and the Art Ross. He got a lot of points without Daniel that year, and he was the main producer of offense. He was scoring goals as well when he didn't have his brother to pass to. So I'm going with Henrik because of that fact, just because of that stretch of games where he looked like a dominant NHL player even without Daniel on his line. Obviously, he is a better player with him, but I think just his playmaking, it didn't matter. He would have an elite winger with him. He'd put up points. So I'm going with Henrik, but that's a conversation that doesn't have to be made because the fact that they did play together and they were amazing. So yeah. Devin, we're going to go with you on this first question. I mean, I'm sure this one I'll get this out of the way first because I'm sure who you'll pick, but pick one, Henrik Zetterberg or Tomas Holmstrom, two guys that were producers on the Red Wings for many years.
With all due respect to the garbage man, Thomas Holmstrom, it's got to be Henrik Zetterberg. Dude won a Conn Smythe in 2008, and I can't wait to see if he can make it to the Hall of Fame.
Alexa, you agree? Is it Zetterberg or are you going with Holmstrom?
I mean, I thought about this one because they obviously played different sorts of games. So it's hard to compare people who do two different roles for a team, but I would agree that it is Zetterberg.
Peter, are you going to make it a hat trick, Zetterberg, or are you going with Holmstrom?
Yeah, Zetterberg. No doubt about it.
I tried to make this difficult, but I guess I didn't make it difficult enough. I go with Zetterberg too, but I mean, Holmstrom was a ridiculous, probably the best net front guy in his era, probably of all time, in front of the net. I mean, Johan Franzen was really good as well for the Red Wings in that role, but Holmstrom was, you throw him in front of the net, he'll probably score. I mean, yeah, like you said, Devin, the garbage man, he'd pick up the garbage. He'd really good at tipping pucks as well. So you want him in front of the net on the power play, that's for sure. So let's finish off this discussion with some present talk and Swedish Youngsters that are in the NHL right now. Alexa, who are you most excited about seeing in their prime? Not now. I mean, they're exciting to watch right now, but they're going to obviously get more exciting when they get into their prime years, when they're at their athletic height. What do you think?
I mean, there's a lot of people to talk about. I might be stealing Devin's answer here with Lucas Raymond. So I might be stealing his answer, but he's always someone I've really enjoyed watching. And I did pick him in my fantasy league this year, so I'm very happy about that. I have him and Cider on my team, so I'm
good job.
enjoying that. Well, that's where my leg up is in fantasy. I know which rookies are going to have a good year. Everyone knows who's going to have a good year, who's been in the league for 5 years, but that's where I get the advantage. So he's someone who I'm excited to see continue to improve.
Yeah, Raymond's really good right now. What is he going to be at 25? My God.
Yeah, exactly.
Peter, who do you have as exciting youngster that you're watching that's Swedish?
It could be someone in the league right now that's still young that, still has a lot of years left. Can it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
who's not in their height yet.
Not in their height. Okay.
They're stealing. Yeah.
I'm gonna say Rasmus Dahlin. And he
That's
got quite a
answer.
bit of flack last season because of the fact that, 23 points, 56 games, shortened season. But then again, the Buffalo Sabres were very on the decline. They were a bad team. And he had to shoulder most of the minutes, most of the ice time, most of the goals against as well. This year, you're seeing that Rasmus Dahlin, sorry, too many Rasmuses. You're seeing that defenseman that the Buffalo Sabres drafted first overall that is, just shy of the 40-point mark, and he would hit that for the third time and even possibly eclipse his best of 44 in his rookie year. So he definitely still has a lot of potential in his game. The offense, the mobility. We saw the edgy side of him with that, Austin Matthews tussle in the Heritage Classic game. I'm not going to weigh in on that just yet, but he's showing that fight. He's showing that battle. He's showing the willingness to do whatever he can. And, the fact that he's going to be a mainstay on this team and that he's going to be with them for quite some time, I think it's good. He's just only going to get better.
Yeah, great pick. I mean, Dahlin, it's Dahlin. Between the Dahlin, he's going to be. I mean, you got Owen Power coming as well. He could potentially be his partner too. So you get better and better. Devin, Alexa probably stole your answer, but yeah, probably have someone else that you're looking at as well.
Yeah, she did. And for what it's worth, yeah, Lucas Raymond's going to be a beast in a few years. But I can show some love to somebody who's not a Red Wing, and it's somebody who I kind of had my eye on for the Wings to pick in the 2021 draft, and he was picked right after they picked Simon Edvinsson, so I can't complain too much, and that's William Eklund. Eklund, he got his cup of tea with San Jose early to start this season, and I thought he didn't look out of place at all. It just kind of was the best fit for him to go back to Sweden and finish out the season. And I think he's looked pretty good over there too. I think he's going to be a really, really good forward in the NHL. Yeah. And I don't know how long it's going to take, but I thought he could have potentially made the NHL. I mean, I think that there is a good case to be made that he should have stayed in the NHL this season. It's just kind of how it worked out for him. And I'm excited to see him lace up full time for the Sharks next season.
Eklund is I still can't believe he dropped so far.
Me too.
I had him first overall of Power, which at one point. So yeah, it's a pretty big I think has a high ceiling. I'm going with Alexander Holtz for the New Jersey Devils. He's been ripping it up in the AHL. I believe last time I checked, he had 27 goals already, and he's played in the NHL this season and hasn't produced a lot. He hasn't played a lot, but he's got so much ceiling with his goal scoring ability. He's really good shot, really dynamic offensive player, and he's going to be a lethal goal scorer in the NHL one day. So I'm excited to see what Holtz can do. I petitioned to try to get the Canucks to get him in a trade if they want a guy like JT Miller. Get Holtz in that package and we could talk. But probably not going to happen. So let's finish off the show with our prospects of the week, like we always do. Alexa can join in on this as well. Peter, we'll go with you first. Who is your prospect of the week?
Yeah, and there's going to be some controversy with this. He is 25, but you know what? Until the NHL changes the rules, he's still considered a prospect. He made his debut a week ago against the Coyotes, coming in relief for Peter Mrazek, and that's Erik Källgren. And the Maple Leafs have had major question marks in the past 2-3 weeks about goaltending. They needed to find some stability. And for Källgren to come in and have the performance that he has so far, especially in his 2 starts, shut out against the Dallas Stars and looked even better against a tough Carolina Hurricanes team. It just screams out the fact that, this could be the goaltender that they've been needing to find, some consistency. And yeah, small sample, 3 games, shouldn't look too much into it. But when you're a Maple Leafs fan and you see struggles, you want to jump at the positives right away. It's just a fact. And he's looked really good in the AHL as well. I believe he was 15-8-1. Numbers are up and down because, the Toronto Marlies weren't that great. They've been inconsistent at times, but you know what? He's been there to backstop them, and he's been really great. And it's just transferred over to the NHL. And let's just see what he could do, because he's got a 1.2 goals against average and 963 save percentage in 3 games. Whether that trend continues, I don't know. But the fact that they got some consistency and they have someone that they can rely on is a big step forward. So he's my player of the week, or prospect of the week. Sorry.
Yeah. The Maple Leafs need goaltending, something, unless they trade for someone in the next couple days here, which could happen. But right now, he's doing really well. Small sample, but yeah.
High price for Fleury now.
Yeah, my gosh, the prices of this trade deadline. We have a whole show about this. Devin, who's your prospect of the week?
Loving the high prices, let me tell you. But anyways, my prospect of the week, since Peter did a Maple Leaf, I'm going to go ahead and do a Red Wing. And this guy was just named the NCHC Rookie of the Year down in the NCAA. Pretty sure we talked about him a little bit on that Red Wings episode a couple episodes ago, and that is Carter Mazur. I had mentioned a couple weeks ago how he had been named Rookie of the Month twice during the season. So I guess it just makes sense he ended up being the Rookie of the Year. He played this season with the University of Denver. 35 points in 37 games, not too shabby for a freshman. 70th overall in 2021, and I think this kid has a really bright future ahead of him as a potential middle 6 winger. Would love to see him have probably one more year in college, and then we can go from there. But to win Rookie of the Year, not everybody does that. So
no.
Good for him.
For sure. Alexa, who's your prospect of the week?
So I'm going to stick with the NCAA trend, and I'm going to go with the UMass guy with Bobby Trevino. He was named top 10 Hobey Baker finalist, was named Hockey East Player of the Year, and he happened to score last night to help UMass get to the Hockey East finals, which they'll be playing tonight. I think he's going to end up getting some sort of deal, probably an AHL contract. One thing I will say about him from having seen him in real life is that he's listed at 5'8". I'm not convinced he's that tall. He's a small guy. He's not a big guy. So that, 5'8" you can deal with in the NHL, but when you're starting to get shorter than that, that makes things pretty difficult for you. So I think he'll end up getting a contract. He's really steadily increased throughout his career. And if Elite Prospects is right, I'm looking at this, he's been a plus 21 for 3 straight seasons, which I'm not a big fan of plus minus in a small term scale, but if you're looking at it over the long term, that says something. So, he's got 46 points in 35 games this year and has really been a great player for UMass. So I think he'll be my player of the week and someone that people should be looking out to sign a contract sometime soon.
Yeah, great choice there. I'm going to finish off this with the guy that scored a ridiculous goal yesterday, and Antonio Stranges. He went coast to coast and went through a ton of players to get there and made some great moves along the way. And everyone's probably saw this goal on Twitter. I wish I could just throw it up here right now, but it's amazing. So go check it out on Twitter, and I'm sure it's all over the highlight reels on YouTube as well. Dallas Stars draft pick, 4th round pick, 123rd overall. And he's got an arsenal of moves like you saw in that goal. He's done it many times, not that same goal, but he's been pretty impressive, and that just screamed to me prospect of the week. I had someone else picked before the show, but or when I did this outline, but then I saw that goal. I'm like, yeah, I gotta highlight this guy because he's an exciting player, and Dallas, I think, got a pretty good guy at that point in the draft in the 4th round. I mean, he's not the big guy, but I mean, 5'10" again is not small by any means, but he's got the moves, as you saw that goal. So it's gonna be exciting to see what he can do in the upper level, and definitely keep an eye on him. That's the show. Thanks, Alexa, for coming on the show. It was fun talking prospects, Swedish prospects with you, and hopefully we can get you on after the draft to talk about them again and what teams got them, right?
Yeah.
So thanks for coming on.
Thanks.
Yeah, so that's the show for another week, and another exciting talk about prospects Swedes this time. And next week we'll talk more and keep moving through the league. So maybe talks about some Finnish players this time next week. So or just the draft in general, we'll see. There's some exciting guests coming up that we have from Dobber as well. So it's going to be great to keep going through them. They seem to be you guys seem to be very open to coming on our show, so that's awesome. So thanks for that. So just to finish off the show, make sure you're checking out our new betting guide over at the Hockey Writers. It's a great it's a new thing we're having at the Hockey Writers, brand new source for daily sports betting odds, lines, props, and futures, daily fantasy strategies as well, and analysis. Make sure you're following them on Twitter at THW Bets to get the latest on sports betting. Thanks to Peter, Alexa, and Devin for coming for joining me again on Prospect Corner. We will see you next week.